Hello, this week I'll be talking about Chapter 8, Developmental Psychology. Now, as I say every week, I'm only going to be talking about a couple of things in this video this week. However, you should read Chapter 8 to find out more about developmental psychology. This week I'll be talking about two theorists of developmental psychology, Jean Piaget and Erik Erikson. I'll start with Jean Piaget, who takes a cognitive approach to development. As we know, cognitive means thinking or thoughts. Jean Piaget says that we go through 4 stages as our thoughts develop, from birth up through adolescence and beyond. The stages are the sensory motor stage, from age 0 to 2, the pre-operational stage, from age 2 to 7, and the concrete operational stage, from age 7 to about 12, and the formal operation stage, from age 12 up through adulthood. Piaget says that we develop certain cognitive abilities as we move through each stage. For instance, Piaget says that in stage 1, the sensory motor stage, we develop what he calls object permanence. Piaget believes that young children believe that if something is gone, it simply doesn't exist anymore. However, according to Piaget, during the sensory motor stage, up to about age 2, children begin to understand that something can be out of sight, but it still exists. According to Piaget, once we reach the second stage, the pre-operational stage, children begin to understand symbolic thinking. Children understand that a map can actually represent a town or a building, that a picture can represent an object in real life. Then once we get to about age 7, Piaget says that we enter the concrete operational stage. Now, I'd like to draw the distinction between concrete and abstract right now. Concrete and abstract are ways of thinking. Concrete thought is, as you can imagine, very rigid and firm. Concrete thought says whatever is, and whatever is not, is not. Abstract thought, which most of us have, says that, well, there might be some variations on what is, and what isn't. For every rule, there's probably an exception. That's what abstract thinking says. During the concrete operational stage, from age 7 up till about age 12, Piaget says that children begin to develop the concept of conservation. Conservation works like this. Up until about the age of 7, if we're dealing with maybe a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, and I show the child this, I've got a glass of liquid. I'm going to pour the liquid from the glass into this dish. The 4 or 5-year-old child can watch me do this, and then I finish and ask a question. Now that I've poured the liquid, do I have more, less, or the same amount in the dish as I did in the glass? The 4 or 5-year-old child will say maybe that I've got more because the liquid is spread out, or maybe that I have less because it's shorter. But a 4 or 5-year-old child can watch me pour the liquid from the glass into the dish and not understand that I've got the same amount of liquid. Once a child reaches 7 or 8 years old, the child understands the concept of conservation. The liquid can be in the tall glass or in the short dish, and there's the same amount of liquid. Once a child reaches about 11 or 12 years old, the child enters formal operations. According to Piaget, formal operations lasts from 11 or 12 years old through the rest of life. One of the main things marked by the formal operation stage is the development of abstract thinking. You remember a couple of minutes ago when I compared concrete thinking with abstract thinking. Once a child has abstract thinking, the child can develop hypothetico-deductive thinking. That's a big word. But what it means is that the child can have these wild abstract thoughts and imagine life on other planets or different people doing different things. Maybe mom and dad are actually aliens, or maybe the neighbor down the street is a spy for the CIA. That doesn't mean that the child has something wrong. That just simply means that the child has a very wild imagination and is beginning to experience abstract thought. Things aren't always exactly what they seem. Another thing that happens during the formal operation stage is that we begin to have an imaginary audience. Again, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. It's not that we think people are out to get us or people are talking about us. But when we have an imaginary audience, we believe that everyone is very interested in everything we do. I can't go to school twice in the same week wearing the same outfit because everyone will know. If my girlfriend broke up with me last week, everyone in the school knows that she broke up with me. It's terrible. It's my imaginary audience and everyone is paying attention to me. We also have what's called a personal fable. Piaget says that our personal fable means that no matter what's happened before, if it's happening to us, it's a big deal. If it's happening to me, it's more important than it's ever happened to you. If I failed a test, it's a bigger deal to me than it would be to you. If I broke up with my girlfriend, it's a bigger deal to me than it would have been to you if you'd broken up with your girlfriend. If I get my driver's license or get a car, it's more important because it happened to me. Piaget says that we all have that personal fable. This is worse because this is me, or this is better because this is me. Erik Erikson says that we go through 8 stages of development, from birth through late adulthood. The first stage, Erikson says, is based on trust versus mistrust, and that's from birth to 1 year old. Infants learn to trust or mistrust depending on the degree and regularity of care, love, and affection provided by parents or caregivers. Erikson says that we move on to stage 2, which is called autonomy versus shame and doubt, and that's from age 1 to 3 years. Children learn to express their will and independence, to exercise some control and to make choices. If not, they experience shame and doubt. From age 3 to age 6, Erikson says that we have initiative versus guilt. Children begin to initiate activities, to plan and undertake tasks, and to enjoy developing motor and other abilities. If not allowed to initiate or made to feel stupid and considered a nuisance, they may develop a sense of guilt. The next stage is from 6 years old to puberty, and that's marked by industry versus inferiority. Children develop industriousness and feel pride in accomplishing tasks, making things and doing things. If not encouraged or rebuffed by parents and teachers, they may develop a sense of inferiority. During adolescence, we experience identity versus role confusion. Adolescents must make the transition from childhood to adulthood, establish an identity, develop a sense of self, and consider a future occupational identity. Otherwise, role confusion can result. In young adulthood, we experience intimacy versus isolation. Young adults must develop intimacy, the ability to share with, care for, and commit themselves to another person. Avoiding intimacy brings a sense of isolation and loneliness. During middle adulthood, we experience generativity versus stagnation. Middle-aged people must find some way of contributing to the development of the next generation. Failing this, they may become more self-absorbed and emotionally impoverished and reach a point of stagnation. And finally, according to Erikson, in late adulthood, we experience ego integrity versus despair. Individuals review their lives, and if they are satisfied and feel a sense of accomplishment, they will experience ego integrity. If dissatisfied, they may sink into despair. That's Chapter 8. Thanks for watching, and remember what they said on Futurama.
When you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.